Hello, everyone. You're listening to Cinema 5000. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast, just me talking about what movies I've seen and such. And I do want to let you know this is the season finale for season 2. What does that mean, you might be thinking? Well, we are at 6,000 films. Yay! Yeah, I watched the 6,000th movie, more or less, and I will reveal that movie at the end of this episode. Yay! Exciting! So what does that mean for the future of the podcast? Well, it's not going to change the name of the show, because I just really started this as an excuse to log what movies I'm watching and talk to you about it, because I've been wanting to start a podcast for a really, really long time. Wasn't sure quite how I would do it. I started this in 2022. I had been planning as far back as 2014 to someday do a podcast. I didn't know how. But then it happened, and here we are, all these years later, still. I hit the 5,000 mark in late 2022, and now we are at 6,000 here in May of 2026. So let's see, let's keep going. Let's see how long it takes me to get to 7,000. That might be a very far time away from now, but we'll find out. Yeah, let's just keep going. I mean, the fact that I have not given up on doing this podcast, I really just kind of do it for me, but I think that's something. I mean, that's an accomplishment. All right, so if we're at 6,000 films, what are we going to talk about? Well, I have 7 films total to talk to you about on this episode. The first one we're going to start with is The $1 Million Hotel from 2000, directed by Wim Wenders. The tagline is, "Everyone has something to hide." A federal agent searches for a potential killer among the bizarre residents of a dilapidated Los Angeles hotel. This stars Mel Gibson as Detective Skinner, but really the star of this film is Jeremy Davies, who plays the character Tom Tom. And in the very introduction of the film, it's kind of suggested that Tom Tom may be, jumping to end his life or something at the beginning, and then we find out in the end what it all means. But Tom Tom, Dixie, who's played by Peter Stormare, as a bizarro character who's sort of like John Lennon-y, and he talks like John Lennon. It's so ridiculous. Amanda Plummer is in the film as Vivian, Bud Cort as Shorty, Geronimo, played by Jimmy Smits, who is also very colorful and bizarro. All these wacky people are there, as is Eloise, who's played by Mila Jovovich, and she is sort of the in the eyes of Tom Tom, Jeremy Davies' character the whole time, but he's never talked to her. And all the while, Skinner is sort of investigating these people and talking to them and finding out that each character is more bizarro than the last because this guy died. But what happened? We don't know. What a ridiculous movie. It is a litmus test of cinema, that's for sure. And it seems like every character is more ridiculous than the last. Every actor is trying to be as bizarre as they can, and this whole movie is all thanks to none other than Bono. This was from a story and then adapted, co-written by Bono along with Nicholas Klein. I do not recommend this movie. It was I was waiting for something to happen where it all kind of made more sense and felt a little bit more digestible as a picture, but no, that never really happened. And I had a very long viewing time of watching this. Let's just say it's a very long 2 hours to try to get through what these characters are all doing, how these actors are performing, and really take it as entertainment. I did not find it very entertaining. Not at all. I had to give this one 1 star. I've been wanting to see this one for a really long time. I watched it on the Criterion Channel. I just sort of was like, hey, it's on there, I'll watch it. No, at least I can say I have watched it and I know for sure. So $1 Million Hotel from 2000, directed by Wim Wenders, 1 star for this one. Oh boy. It is on a lot of streaming services in case you are indeed interested in watching it. Hoopla, Canopy, Amazon Prime, Tubi, other places. Yeah. Okay. Thankfully something maybe a little better. It's Videoheaven from 2025, directed by Alex Ross Perry. There is no tagline for this film. Since the 1980s, the video shop has been a desperately necessary space for film culture. In Videoheaven, Alex Ross Perry tells the story of the neighborhood video shop to consider wider changing social histories using appropriated footage from the high and the low brow. This is a video essay of sorts about the video store narrated by Maya Hawke, and it uses mostly movie footage and then a couple TV shows here and there to talk to you about the experience of going to a video store. I worked in a video store for 6 years. I started working under the table when I was 13, and I left when I was 19 to go to college, so I was leaving, and goodbye video stores, and I found a couple shops to go to when I was living in Chicago, and I missed it, but by the time I got back from college, the store was closing, so it really did not exist anymore. I think this is all right. I mean, there's a lot of movies that I want to say this pretty much, it has to have, like, every single movie mentioned that ever featured a video store in any context within the film. There are so many, and this movie is so long. It is 172 minutes. I think I watched about the first 2 hours of it, just like straight through, and then had to stop and like make dinner and just take a break and be like, okay, where else is this going? I mean, there are a lot of perspectives it uses the footage to discuss, be it voyeurism or just like how the behaviors are in the video store, but it also feels like a bit much. It's a lot of things, and I do think because it has that perspective of really presenting how media views the video store, that like it loses that touch that you might have had as an actual experience of an individual, like just regular video store behavior, not in the movies or TV shows it's portrayed. I did like that certain films got mentioned. Video Violence is one movie that I saw, I want to say a couple of years ago, and I think that's from like 87, 88, and that's a very interesting film that is shot on video, it looks crappy, and it's supposed to look crappy, and it's also very disturbing. Though I would not, I think I gave that movie 3 stars, but I don't really recommend it to anybody unless they're really like a gore hound, because it does feel very nasty and realistic in some ways because of how it's shot. Anyway, I like that stuff like that got mentioned because that's the stuff I would assume fall by the wayside and not get mentioned in any kind of documentary. But then again, this is so thorough and so long and has so many ways that it talks about video stores that it all kind of feels repetitive at times, and like it's kind of hammering home the same point. And it just does not need to be 172 minutes long. As much as I give this 3 stars and I can say I enjoyed it, it is much too long for what it is. But it was kind of funny to see movies like Dog Park show up in this. Like, who remembers the movie Dog Park? I mean, I remember it, but nobody should be remembering Dog Park. So, Videoheaven from 2025, directed by Alex Ross Perry. I had to give this one 3 stars. Like, it's fine. It might be interesting if you've never been to a video store, because they are very hard to find these days, that's for sure. I mean, if you want to rent a video or DVD, whatever, you can go to your library. Libraries have lots of DVDs, but that experience, yeah, it's a special one and it's gone. And I do kind of have an issue with using like film and TV to talk about that experience, because that's not real, you know? Yeah, but it's all right. I guess I say watch it if you're interested, though it might be a litmus test in some ways too, because it is so long. But it's available to stream right now on the Criterion channel in case you are interested. Now up next we have Atropia from 2025, directed by Haley Benton Gates. The tagline is "The story of a real fake place." When an aspiring actress in a military role-playing facility falls in love with a soldier cast as an insurgent, their unsimulated emotions threaten to derail the performance. Alia Shawkat stars in the film as Feiruz. She's an actress who, says she has a history and she's familiar with the Middle East, and she's working in these sort of scenarios where she's portraying different characters, and they go through not reenactments, but enactments to train soldiers to learn how to work in different situations. And this movie wants to have like a satirical comedy edge to it, and talking about war and actors and people and all these things, and I don't think any of this is very successful. She ends up falling for Callum Turner's character Abu Dice, who is an insurgent, and in real life she's falling for him, and it seems like they get along together, but I just kind of didn't buy their romance as it was happening. And as this is all happening, There was nothing really that stuck for this movie, nothing that really felt significant. It felt all very hollow, and it just oddly felt so dated. Like, this is a 2025 movie, but it feels like it could have been a 2005 movie. And it so reminded me of the kind of like independent films that were coming out post the 2000 election, like reactions to the Iraq War, and even movies that were made in the 2000s that were maybe based on the Gulf War, you know, using that storytelling to talk about the American political and military might, and then maybe having a comedy edge to it. But it just didn't really work for me. And it's funny, the movie reminded me, I want to say in some ways the most of, I don't know if there's any direct correlation in the storytelling of that, because it's been so long since I've seen it, but it made me think of the movie Buffalo Soldiers with Joaquin Phoenix. I don't even think that has anything to do with, you know, what this movie is talking about, really, but it made me think of that. I don't know. Atropia really wants to be funny and a little bit biting and have this satirical take, but I just found none of it funny, and it just felt like it felt needless. It felt very empty. I sadly had to give this one 1.5 stars. It just didn't work for me. Is there a level it worked for me on? I just don't know. I'm so sorry. What else do I say? I do want to note this one, like the grand jury prize at the Sundance Film Festival for 2025, and I find that a bit shocking, but then again, it's Sundance. I've got my own separate feelings about that. I'll try not to let that cloud my experience of this movie, but it just didn't work for me. Atropia from 2025, directed by Haley Button Gates. Like I said, I had to give this one 1.5 stars. It just doesn't have much to it, and it didn't make me laugh, and didn't really have much for me to chew on. Now, up next, we have Predator 2 from 1990, directed by Stephen Hopkins. The tagline is silent, invisible, invincible. He's in town with a few days to kill. A police chief in the war-torn streets of Los Angeles discovers that an extraterrestrial creature is hunting down residents, and that he is the next target. This stars Danny Glover as Lieutenant Mike Harrigan. Mike Harrigan, he's been butting heads with Peter Keyes. Keyes and Harrigan, you know, it's not going so good. Keyes is played by Gary Busey. So we've got some significant actors who are kind of central to this story, right? Does that matter? I mean, this is a Predator film. Well, I think the first part of the picture, like the first probably, I want to say the first half, has this very exaggerated, like future Los Angeles kind of feel to it, even though it might be still like set in the 90s. It just gave me RoboCop vibes. Like, everything is so exaggerated with the violence, with the gangs and everything going on, and then the Predator comes into the mix. So naturally, it's ridiculous. Yeah, there's like tabloid journalism, like your hard copy happening right on the street, and all this stuff is happening, and it's driving Harrigan up the wall. Danny Glover is good in this. I liked him in this. Like, he was, you know, getting his time to shine in this film, and like really having interactions with his department, and then the interactions with the Predator. He's all working all the time. Ruben Blades is briefly in the film, as well as Maria Conchita Alonso and Bill Paxton. Not really a lot of them there, but I mean, if you know it's a Predator film, not everybody's gonna make it to the end. Also Robert Davi. Yeah, but I think the last probably 40 minutes or so of this film, when it really gets going on the action, is pretty successful. Like, there's an underground subway scene, which I think happens almost halfway through, which I did enjoy. And then Harrigan battling the Predator. Yeah, it worked. It was fun. It was exciting. I mean, it's not the most polished action film, and it's taking place in Los Angeles, so this is 1990. You get what you get. But I had a good time with that part of the film. It's just not, as a whole, very successful, unfortunately. So, despite me liking that latter part of the picture, I had to give Predator 2 2.5 stars. It just didn't quite work for me as it started out. It would have been, I don't know how you make this movie better. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you want to. It's just Predator in Los Angeles. What do you need to know? And I do want to say that I had not seen the original Predator film in a very long time. So before watching Predator 2, I did rewatch Predator, and I like Predator. I give that 3.5 stars. I think that's a fun film. I think it's well scripted. Everybody's great in it. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bill Duke and Carl Weathers. Yeah, it's fun. This one, I just think this is an okay picture. Let's just say that. Like, my 2.5 is a bit affectionate because of how much of it works, but at the same time, I have to acknowledge that the beginning of this is just it's bonkers. It's crazy. Predator 2 from 1990, directed by Stephen Hopkins. Had to give this one 2.5 stars. Gosh, every movie is like war. War to some degree, but the next film we're talking about also has to do with war. It's The Wizard of Loneliness from 1988, directed by Jenny Bowen. The tagline is, "Sometimes needing someone is the bravest thing you can do." After his mother dies and father goes to fight in World War II, a young boy moves in with his aunt and uncle who live in the countryside. Lonely and unhappy, he starts believing he has superpowers. Then a, quote, dead, unquote, man shows up. Lucas Haas is our central character, Wendell. This movie very much takes his perspective to tell this story. Wendell is a boy he's kind of a little shithead, but I mean, he's of that age where he's kind of starting to understand the world, but really too young to process it. At the same time, he is kind of, stuck in this home in Vermont, not really having a lot of friends. He does have young Tom, who's living in the house that he does get to hang out with, but Tom is still so much younger than him, so he doesn't quite understand things, and Wendell makes fun of him, and it's just two young kids, kind of bantering and whatever, doing kid stuff. Though at the same time, living in the home as well is Sybil. Sybil is played by Leah Thompson, and she's a woman who, there's something up with her. She has lost something, and there's some pictures that are around the home where that Wendell can see that Sybil had a relationship with a man, and he doesn't quite understand where this man is until one day he meets a guy, and this guy turns out to be the man in that picture. That character's name is Duffy, who's played by Dylan Baker. What Wendell can't really process is the fact that Duffy has come home from the war and is acting strangely. He is an odd character, and it's pretty clear to us, the audience, that he's gone through some PTSD. And so Sybil, there's something that must have happened to them to break their relationship apart. Like, Sybil sees him around at times and they talk, but he's also kind of a pariah in this small town. So Duffy kind of has to hide out wherever he can and live on the street. It's a very odd situation. It is very much of the vein, like, collectively, this movie, I will say, it's very much that small town, odd kind of storytelling that you see a lot in the 80s. Like, the movie I thought of in relating to what this story is, like, if I was to describe, I would say this movie is like the cousin of The World According to Garp. It's very much that small town, quirky living, though this one has a very somber and sad tone, even more so than Garp, because that World War II stuff is happening in the background, where we're finding out that men have died and women are left alone. And then there are people in the town who are suffering. And Wendell's grandfather, he's a doctor, so he goes ahead and he helps people out. When they can't, provide payment to help their children, he accepts gifts. And one of those gifts, like, Wendell gets a pair of rabbits that the family gives as a gift for payment for the grandfather helping out with one of their children when they're sick. It's a very offbeat film, though, because everything's from Wendell's perspective, we have to kind of learn everything through him, and he's just learning new things about life. There's enough things happening in this movie that I kind of feel like it should have been rated R. I know it's rated PG-13, but it's dealing with adult subject matter that a young kid, when watching, doesn't really understand. And I watched this movie because when I was a young kid, I think this was on, like, UPN, like, some Saturday afternoon or something, and I saw, like, part of the ending of this movie, and I was like, whoa, what the heck is that? I was like a young kid, just like Wendell. I didn't know what I was watching, but it was happening in front of me, and I couldn't really process. Now that I've seen the movie, I understand it better, thankfully. But this is something I've always like wanted to watch, just to say, hey, I finally watched that movie and I understand what it was doing. There have been a number of things over the years. I mean, it's probably happened to every kid of like the 80s or whatever, where you've seen something on TV briefly and it is stuck in the back of your mind. And then you can go back and watch it in full and see how it's connected and figure out, was that image that was so disturbing to me back then really something that could disturb me now, or is it different? Like, how do you feel about it? Yeah, there have been a number of things like that over the years that I've like found and watched. But the way this movie plays out, it does kind of make me interested to read the book. The book is written by John Nichols, and I'm not familiar with his work, so I think I'll go ahead and try to find the book. Also because there's a slightness to this where I feel like the story is like maybe a little underdeveloped in some ways, and I have no doubt there's probably more things in the book that really tie things better, a little bit more tightly. Because yeah, I do like Lucas Haas in this movie. I think Leah Thompson is good as well. They are kind of the two central characters, but it's also kind of giving me, this is a little forgettable. So I had to give The Wizard of Loneliness 2.5 stars. Like I said, it's from the 80s. It's from 1988. It's directed by Jenny Bowen. I watched it on MGM Plus. I don't regret watching it. Obviously, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but like it's something that now I kind of have a better, understanding of what I had seen back when I was a little kid, and yeah, all good. But not a bad film to watch, that's for sure. And like I said, very World According to Garp-ish in its perspective. Yeah, not for children, despite the fact that it is definitely centralized on the experience of children in this life and what is happening. Yeah. Okay, now we have Marc By Sofia from 2025, directed by Sofia Coppola. The tagline is A Portrait of Marc Jacobs. An intimate, unconventional portrait of Marc Jacobs, crafted by Sofia Coppola to capture the genius and singular universe of the iconic American designer. Marc Jacobs. Yeah, I am familiar with Marc Jacobs' work. I've seen a number of his runway shows like online, and then pictures of his designs and such. He worked for Louis Vuitton. There's a documentary, Marc Jacobs Louis Vuitton, that I have seen that I did enjoy watching, and that was very much, from what I recall, all about the craft and designing. And this is really just about Marc. It's just him kind of having conversations about his life, his perspective, where he's come from, and then over the years, like how he's worked in the business. And we are also having the experience of watching him create one of his collections for 2024. What's the perspective? How's the design going? What fabric works where? How do we portray this image, and what are his inspirations that all make this show? And I found the conversations here just really beautiful and really nice. There was an easiness to this that I quite enjoyed, more than other fashion documentaries I've seen, and I've seen a number of them, but this felt less like, it felt less showy. It felt a bit more stripped down. Like it does, if you told me Sofia Coppola, like, make a documentary, like it'd be pretty much like this, not a lot of her, how shall I say it, visual touches, that's for sure. It's definitely more grounded. And I know this might feel like a little slight to some people, like they don't get to know Marc in full or whatever, but I liked the easygoing way that this movie evolved, and how we learn things about him and the way he works and just his perspective on this collection. And I had a really, really nice time. And in fact, I went ahead and I watched this again, just to take it in again, because I just found it really lovely and really nice. I don't know what to say else about that. But there's like little things that Marc says along the way that I just found like really, really great. Like there's this one clip of him from a show many years on where he's like, this is just my fantasy. You don't have to wear the clothes. I don't want to tell people what to wear. This is just what I'm doing. And he also has this moment where he talks about his perspective on what a black t-shirt is, depending on which city you're in, whether you're in New York or whether you're in Paris, like how things kind of are and how you dress. And that just really struck me. Like, I think about what I wear, how I wear it all the time, for my clothes. And him talking about the black t-shirt, I was just like, yes, exactly. And I wish this was longer. I really wish this was like maybe 3 hours or so. Just like keep talking, like keep telling me how you feel about the fashion world, what your inspirations are, you know, what's the design perspective for this new collection, and you know, anything. I just had a really nice time watching this. I gave this 3.5 stars, which is probably higher than most people would probably rate something like this, but I just had a really good time watching it. So Marc By Sofia from 2025, directed by Sofia Coppola. 3.5 stars. This only came out in theaters, I want to say a couple months ago, and it didn't get a release around here, so it's now on digital, so I rented it. And yes, I did enjoy it. Yeah. Okay, here we are. We've made it. This is the last movie on this episode. This is the last movie reviewed in season 2, because it's the 6,000th movie. Yay. Okay, so why the 6,000th movie? What did I pick? Why did I pick it? I wanted to pick a movie that I thought I would like. The movie I picked for the 5,000th movie was On Body and Soul, which was a very, very, how do I say it? Like a very offbeat film. I've been saying that a lot lately. Offbeat, strange, different, but also very beautiful and very like romantic in its own ways. I was like, it's got to be a big epic of sorts now for the 6,000 mark, because it's been years since that. So there were a couple movies that I knew of that I had not seen, that I had been wanting to see for a really long time. I will say the movie that didn't make the cut, that I thought maybe would be a good one to watch, that I will probably watch soon, is Nixon by Oliver Stone, because I've been wanting to see that one for a really long time. But the movie I picked Reds from 1981, directed by Warren Beatty. The tagline is, "Not since Gone with the Wind has there been a great romantic epic like it." An account of the revolutionary years of the legendary American journalist John Reed, who shared his adventurous professional life with his radical commitment to the socialist revolution in Russia. His dream of spreading its principles among the members of the American working class, and his troubled romantic relationship with the writer Louise Bryant. I picked this because I wanted something big. I wanted something sweeping, you know, just something huge. And I like Warren Beatty. I do really love Diane Keaton, always have. So I was like, how could this be bad? It's great. It is all those things. It is the perspective of a journalist, like trying to push for social change and also coming up against, you know, conflict in all kinds of places. And then his relationship with Louise Bryant, who also is pushing for the same thing, but how are they divided? How are they together? Oh, everything you could want for a big, epic, sweeping, years-long drama between two people. It's great. I really liked it. I thought Warren Beatty and Diane Keaton were terrific together. Totally believe their romance. Like, she's so good in this. I'm so glad she was nominated for an Academy Award. She didn't win, but like if she wasn't nominated for this, oh my gosh. Now, I don't know if I necessarily buy Warren Beatty as John Reed necessarily. I did believe Diane Keaton as Louise Bryant, like 100%. But it kind of doesn't matter, because this is just a very big and glorious, lovely movie. Great music, great production design. Always nice to look at. I wish I had seen this in a theater, and if the chance comes, I will go. It doesn't matter what format. And also with like a big cast of like people you recognize, like Paul Sorvino and Maureen Stapleton, who won an Oscar for supporting actress in this film, as well as Jack Nicholson, briefly in the film as Eugene O'Neill, who has a relationship with Louise Bryant while John Reed is away. They were great. I thought, yeah, he was so good in this. Like a brief part, but just, he came in and it was just like terrific. Reds is great. I really like this one. I don't know how younger audiences would feel about this movie. They might be like, it's too long, blah, blah, blah. But I think in the grand tradition of a historical drama with romance, all that stuff, totally successful. I think Reds is, I'm so glad I finally saw this movie. Had to give this one 4 stars. I just think it's great. Reds, 1981, directed by Warren Beatty. The 6,000th film I have logged on Letterboxd. Yeah, I will probably watch this one again soon. If not, I don't know how good the Blu-ray is of it. If it has a good quality, I'm gonna have to research that because I would love to own this movie. I can see this be one I just put on and it's just like, oh, so much movie, so moving, and so much passion. Like, these characters are just it. They're so into what they're doing. They love what they do. They love the fight. They love the battles. They love the tension. All those things. And they just do not make movies like this anymore, and it kills me. I can't imagine what it was like seeing this movie in the theater back then. I'm sure some people were kind of like, the politics of it, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, it's a great one. I'm so, so glad I chose this. Yeah, what can I say else? Yeah, that's it. Okay, that is all for movies. Oh, Warren Beatty did win an Oscar for directing this as well. Very earned. What a picture. Yeah, okay, so that is the end of season 2. We've hit the 6,000 mark. What's the next episode going to be? It's just going to be regular movies. We'll get into the swing of where the path goes for what I watch next. I don't know if I'm going to be going into the movies much in the coming weeks because it's almost Memorial Day, so there are big, big movies, and I don't know if I care about those big, big movies. Maybe I'll go. But I think I'm actually going to take a week or so off from an episode. So I know I don't always do an episode every single week, but I definitely won't do one in the next week. So, you'll just have to wait. We'll figure out what's going to happen. I'm just going to keep doing episodes though, whenever I do them. So if you want to follow along for where the path takes me for movies and what I'm talking about, what I'm seeing, go to cinema5000.com. That is the website. That is where I have the links. You can follow my letterbox. You can check for updates on there. You can also go over to the blog whenever I do updates. I know I'm going to write something soon about... I said I was going to do it about the Independent Film Festival of Boston. It's been a couple weeks now, but I've just been busy. Whatever. When I do that update, I will put it on the blog. I also update the YouTube videos of the podcast on there as well, on the blog. And I know I'm behind, but I will be putting up a couple episodes, this one and the last one, on the blog soon. I promise. Okay. On Bluesky, the page is Cinema 5000, and on YouTube, look for Cinema 5000 Podcast. If you want to send an email, send it to cinema5kpod@gmail.com. Like I said, I'm not changing the name of the podcast. Not much is going to change, other than the episodes now will be on season 3, because season 3 is the journey we will take to get to 7,000. Yeah, I always update the letterbox right after I watch something, so go to cinema5000.com to see what things I'm watching. And also, we don't have a rewatch recap until July too, so it'll just be regular episodes for a bit, unless for some reason I come up with an excuse for a special episode. Who knows what that would be. But thank you so much for listening. If you're listening, I know this isn't a top, I'm not big time. I'm not some huge known podcaster or anything like that. I do this mostly for me, just to kind of hash out my feelings and try to have some kind of perspective. It's difficult for me to sort of put the words to what I'm feeling, so recording is never easy. I'll say that. I re-record stuff all the time, but I like having the podcast just be a one shot. And if I have to edit out anything, it's just little blips here and there of, I don't know, maybe somebody pulls a chainsaw in the background and I gotta redo something on the fly. But I just like to be more casual with how I talk about things, and I hope you've been enjoying it. I know I don't have a lot of subscribers, but I know I have some, so I thank you so much for listening. We'll get into the 6,000s. The road ahead, it's there. We're gonna be driving. We're gonna be going straight ahead. Enough of that. Yeah, I'm Mallory. Thanks again for listening. I will talk to you again very soon. Okay, bye.